What's going on, people? Welcome to the channel. Today should be a shorter video because I am tired. I've just finished a night shift at the station. I finished my shift. I thought I might do a quick video before I go home, but this is going to be the story about how I got the police called on me while I was working plainclothes. So for a lot of you civilians out there, you might call this undercover. However, this isn't undercover. I was simply a police officer still wearing a stab vest, still with my radio exposed, still with my body cam exposed. However, I had civilian clothing on at the same time. So a lot of people call us undies when we dress like that. So we're not undercover. We're not like pretending to be anything that we're not. And also, we're only trying to blend in to a certain extent. As soon as we're faced with you, it should be quite apparent to you that we're a police officer because we've got a vest on and we've got a radio and we've got a flashing body cam. But on this day, this is again another story when I was a bit earlier on in my career and I was on a neighbourhood team and we were doing an operation which was to be safeguarding some young kids who were going around selling drugs and using knives. So it was to safeguard the kids but also safeguard the other kids going to school, because other kids going to school were being robbed, beaten up, abused and attacked by some of the other kids. So it's a weird situation. You're safeguarding both sides. However, we safeguard by giving advice, we safeguard by dropping these kids home, we safeguard by interacting with their parents, we safeguard by interacting with the school. But if that doesn't work, we safeguard their victims by arresting them. So we were given this operation and we were given a briefing at the start of the day. And on the briefing page, it exposed all the people who we're looking for. I've mentioned a few of them in a previous video where I spoke about county lines and child drug mules. Some of the people on there who I mentioned in that video were the same offenders who I'll be speaking about in this video. But for this little kid, I'm going to call him K. So K, his dad had just came out of prison, his mum was working 3 jobs, and his older brother was in prison. The thing about K was, with a lot of the other kids, they would interact with you and try and have a conversation with you, even if they didn't like police. With him putting up with it, you'd have to put up with them being rude for a good 2-3 minutes before they had a conversation with you. But if you got past that and continued to kind of be graceful with them, eventually they would start to open up and be a little bit more polite and want to have a conversation with you. He didn't. If he saw the police, it was middle fingers up and he was off on his pedal bike. He would be saying, "You're not going to catch me," even at sometimes pointing at his waistband trying to lure that he had something, and then pedaling off down the road in his little pedal bike. K was about 5'4" in height, probably less. He was quite short, young black kid, and he was always selling drugs in the town centre. We always knew it, but catching him is a different kettle of fish. People often ask why there's so many police cars looking for one guy. It's because when your freedom's on the line, people can run and people can do some things which you wouldn't expect. They'll jump over a 7-foot fence with barbed wire, and that's on my heart. I've seen it happen. Little dudes jumping over massive fences, and you think, how the heck did they get up there? And it's because their freedom's on the line. They will go because it's their life is literally in the balance. So myself and my colleague, we were, as I said, plainclothes. So I've got my jacket on, I've got my stab vest on, I've got my radio, I've got my body camera on, and I've got my belt on. And we get a call that the same individuals who usually selling drugs and carrying weapons in the town centre outside the McDonald's. We make our way there, we jump out of our police car and we start walking down. As we walk down, we're getting a few looks, but it's so busy at the time. This is obviously pre-lockdown. This is a good 1.5 years ago or 2 years. Because it's pre-lockdown, it is super duper busy and people aren't really noticing us, even though it's quite clear if you have a good look at us that we're police officers. All of a sudden, who do I see on a pedal bike outside McDonald's? And what's he doing? He's doing some funny handshakes with some other youths on the street, doing some funny handshakes, slipping this, slipping that. They reach into their pocket, they give him a funny handshake, and he starts looking over his shoulders. He was so confident, he thought he could do it in broad daylight. It's busy, who cares? I'll just ride away on my pedal bike because I always get away. So I nudged my colleague and I said, "Mate, look who that is, it's K." He looked at me and said, "Yeah, it's K." "What's he doing?" "He's clearly dealing drugs." "Right." So I told him, "You go right, I'll go left and we'll walk around." We kept our wits about us. We took it really, really easy, just blending in with the crowd, walked around. And when the time was right, we approached him from both sides. And as soon as he saw us, his bike was faced the wrong way. He tried to turn his bike around, tripped over his bike, fell onto the floor, and we grabbed him. He's screaming, get off me, get your hands off me, what are you doing? He knows that we're police officers, but he's shouting around as if we're not. We've let him know that we're police, and he's shouting, saying, get off me, you're trying to attack me, you're beating me up, screaming. Members of the public who are overhearing what's happening start to pay attention and start to try and pull us away, because they don't know that we're the police. I'm explaining we are the police, just give us some space. People are crowding around saying, you're meant to be the police and you're beating him up, he's done nothing wrong, he's here talking to his friends. Even people who I've seen walk over, they've walked down the street from watching the situation from afar. They weren't there initially, they didn't see any drug dealing take place, they didn't even see us apprehend him, and they're walking over to me telling me how I've behaved. You've been aggressive from the beginning. I'm like, mate, you weren't here at the beginning. So we're holding this dude down. All of a sudden I realise this guy is squirming around way too much for it to just be drugs. So I'm quite suspicious now because he's still fighting with us. And people should know, if you are trying to stop someone and immobilise someone when they don't want to be immobilised without causing them pain, it's very, very difficult. You need to be holding down their limbs and trying to pull their hands away from themselves. It gets difficult. And this is only a little kid, right? He's like 14, 15 at the time. We start to try and pull up his shirt to see what's going on, because I noticed a bulge through the tail of his shirt, and I'm thinking, this guy's got a weapon on him. This kid has definitely got a weapon on him. I've still got members of the public saying, you're disgusting, you're beating him up, police brutality, and trying to record us. I say to him, okay, what have you got on your waistband? Nothing. Mate, I can see, have you got a knife? Mate, look at me. Calm down. Have you got a knife? Officer, yeah, I got a knife. The crowd is still shouting, you're corrupt, you're beating him up, get away from him, all this type of stuff. I reach into his waistband, what do I pull out? A massive knife. Literally this dude, oh, sirens. Literally this dude is about 5'4". This knife, which goes like 2/3 of the way down his leg. That's how long it was. It was a massive knife, sheathed with a wooden handle. They call it a Rambo knife. So you can imagine what that looks. You can imagine the visual inside your head. It's like a bushcraft Rambo knife. It's for one thing and one thing only. These kids aren't here to go and make fires and do survival or hunt animals in the town centre. They're there to do some damage. And we pull out a massive knife. What do the crowd suddenly start doing? Do they say, oh, you know what, officer, sorry, got off on the wrong foot there. Sorry, I misunderstood what was going on. It was... And then walking away. And then walking away. Funnily enough, none of those recordings of that police brutality ended up on the internet, but that's a story for another time. All of a sudden, more units start to turn up, and I'm thinking to myself, I actually haven't radioed for any more units. I would have, but in the heat of the moment, I forgot to. A sergeant turns up, a load of other officers turn up, and they're saying, have you got, I know you've got him on hand, but have you seen a fight taking place here? No, what was the call? The call was a big black man and a white man are beating up a black kid in the street. So one of the shopkeepers must have looked out the window and seen us apprehending this kid and arrested him, and thought that we were beating him up because they couldn't see that we were in police uniform. So they actually ended up calling the police on us. So loads of units turned up saying there's knives involved and there's men beating up a child in the street. Anyway, we take the kid and we take him inside one of the shops. We had a really good relationship with the security guards, and we took the kid to where they would keep their shop, where this certain shop would keep their shoplifters, if that makes sense. It's like a back room, like a back little office. The reason why we took him there is, number one, people are starting to video and people are starting to crowd around. We don't want his face ending up all over the media, because if that was my kid, I wouldn't want that, whether he's been naughty or not. But also to give us some privacy. We're out of breath, we're sweaty, we've been going through abuse for a good few minutes, all to find out that this kid's got a knife in him. And then the same people who gave us abuse they've still got something to say. We've shut some of them up by literally pulling that knife out. We've shut some of them up, but certain people still have some stuff to say. So we bring them to the back room. Inside his bag, lo and behold, he's got a load of drugs on him. He's got a little bit of Class A, but mainly Class B, loads of individual wraps of cannabis. For me, when it comes to people smoking cannabis, it's illegal, so I deal with it. But for me and 99% of officers out there, it's not the end of the world. However, the issue, which what I have with cannabis and drug dealing, is a lot of these young kids who are coerced into doing it because they're in danger, because of the lifestyle that they lead. They're in danger from other drug dealers, and they're in danger from, sometimes these kids get robbed by their clients. They have to carry weapons, and when you carry a weapon, you're more likely to get stabbed, and you're more likely to stab someone else. But I can't remember what happened with the kid, but this is how this story links into something a lot more recent. So I'm working on a response team now, and there was a high-profile murder a few months back. This same male is one of the suspects for that high-profile murder now. So I'm not sure what action was taken against him at the time. However, after he was arrested for that knife, I'm pretty sure I saw him on the streets after that, a few days after, being cocky on his pedal bike again, laughing at us. When at the crime, I'm thinking to myself, kid, about 2-3 weeks ago, you were in that room when the knife was in front of you, and we told you under arrest, and we said we need to phone your mum to come to the station to do the interview with you. You were crying, but now you're cocky again. So I'm not sure if anything serious happened to him. Now he's the suspect in a high-profile murder where a young man was brutally murdered in the street in broad daylight. So this is how these things spiral. So it starts off being, oh, he's just selling a bit of weed. And it doesn't have to escalate any further than that, but then he's carrying a knife to protect himself and to protect what's his, which is his weed and his little patch where he deals. And then that turns into, literally, he's one of the named suspects for a murder of another young boy. And this is literally within a year and a half. So these things do spiral out of control. That's why we do like to take a strong stance on drug dealing, because these kids are coerced into behaving that way. And before you know it, they're adults. And now that they're now hardened criminals and suspects who are going to teach other kids to do the same. So the abuse pattern continues. And I know we do want to see them as victims to a certain extent. Even when they're adults, we do want to see that. But the same way with a lot of paedophiles get molested when they're children, but we still treat them as suspects when they're adults, because there becomes a certain time where they need to know better and they need to try and help themselves before they do something else stupid. And it's the same with these drug dealers. It's the same with these people who carry weapons. We understand you've gone through a lot, but let's get help rather than making someone else into what you are now, because you know that you're not in a good place. So why would you then go and abuse someone else and force someone else to carry drugs in their bum and carry a knife and stab people and get stabbed so they can be like you, when you know that you're not living a very good lifestyle? I'm going to leave it there today. Again, that kid's being arrested for that murder, and it's the same old. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me if you think that our treatment of juveniles with knives is appropriate or inappropriate. Do you think that it is a real deterrent, or do you think that it literally, our inaction leads to murders like the one I just briefly mentioned? Thank you for watching the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll be back with another one soon. I need to get some sleep. Peace.